I spend at least half an hour or an hour a day on Twitter, just reading through, following a lot of the people who play our game, a lot of our community. I just want to see what the sentiment is like. I want to hear what the people on the front line are saying. I want to understand what pain points there are. Where are we today? You learn a lot by listening to your community, right?
That's Chris, co-founder of Virtually Human Studios. They've raised over $20 million and are backed by funds like A16Z. My biggest takeaway is focusing on your community. How do you build together?
Listen to them, not let them have the final say, but again, back to my point that you need to understand and collect the data. If 90% of them are saying the same thing, there's probably something about that. And also, is we give them access to our API, so they actually can get the data from our game and our ecosystem and build these complex front-end homepages, which actually assist people in playing the game.
Just a few examples of how they work alongside their customers, listening to them, but not letting them lead. It's a great episode. You're going to learn a lot. Boom. Hey, welcome to Sit Down Startup Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Adam O'Donnell, former founder and VC. I now work at Zendesk for Startups, where we offer 6 months free use of Zendesk for qualified high growth companies. Welcome to Sit Down Startup, Zendesk Founder Podcast. So excited to have you here. I want to make it known for everyone. Chris and I actually recorded another episode, but I deleted it. 100% my fault. It's a crazy situation, but yet Chris just told me that it's okay to fail. And look at him, he's spending a whole nother 30 minutes with me to do another recording. So he's actually putting his money where his mouth is. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome. And then, yeah, just to elaborate on that, we could do a whole separate podcast on what a, zero fail culture that we're actually got out there in society. And I think we need to help, walk the walk and change the narrative, because, as a father of 3 kids, they come home and they're afraid to make mistakes. That's not how it should be, because the real world, we make a lot of mistakes and we learn from them. And, I'm sure we're going to talk about some today in terms of, establishing ZED RUN and Virtually Human Studios and everything else.
Man, that's such a good point. Well, thanks for, you're actually walking it out. That's really exciting. So just give everyone an overview of first Virtually Human. When you founded it, how much money it's raised, or how big it became, just for anyone who isn't aware.
Yeah, so Virtually Human Studios is a studio co-founded by myself and 3 other co-founders. We started in 2018. My background is digital graphics for film and games and creative direction in there, as well as exploring emerging technologies at a University of Technology level. But then in 2018, blockchain was a thing. We were dabbling in it, and we came up with a concept which was, digital horse racing on blockchain. So basically democratizing digital horse racing, letting everybody, and then using the power of blockchain to, prove that you actually own these digital assets, right? And I don't want to say the acronym, but it is the one called NFTs. But, don't let the FUD worry you, because it's the power beneath the NFTs, which is really powerful. And that's the technology that is blockchain technology. Using that to create entertaining experiences is what we want to do, where we give, our users and people who try our experiences ownership over certain elements of the experience, and if they choose to. So you can own a digital racehorse, you can breed more digital racehorses, you have to uncover what they do, where they run best, and then you race them. And it's a simple concept, but building it is not that simple when you're building it on new technology. So to my point before, we made a lot of mistakes. We still make a lot of mistakes, but you win some, you learn some, and you fail forward. So
and that's amazing. And you've raised about $20 million plus in that.
Yeah, we had a really successful Series A, which was great, backed by TCG and AC16, among others, where we raised around $21 million, and as well as, I think we were known for the drops that stopped the world, in terms of when we were selling our horses, our Genesis horses, back in 2019. It was very accustomed to actually create these drops where people would race in, and here we made a lot of mistakes. I mean, we had servers go down, and we had multiple failed drops, like many other projects had at that time, because we're trying something new, and we just weren't aware of the demand. But that was really cool, because we sold for millions of dollars of racehorses as well, which then then boomed our project and backed us. And here we are 4 years later, and we're still building. And we're still doing, making amazing iterations to this ecosystem. I like to call it an ecosystem, not a game, because the vision is, of course, long-term play where it's a greater ecosystem for all players to come in and take part in and contribute to as well, right? I'm sure we'll talk about metaverse, the fluid term there is, but this is our contribution, and we have some thoughts on that.
Man, I love it. Well, what was one of the lowest moments in your journey back when you started it to now?
Well, before we did those drops, we were bootstrapping. I mean, we had a very little funding. So, it's funny because, innovation doesn't come without taking risk, right? Like, you got to be willing to bet on yourself. You got to be willing to take a chance. And, all us founders, we left some pretty cruisy jobs. I can speak for myself. I was at a university where I was leading up a really cool research, educational facility with focus on emerging technologies. And everybody, this was the first time in my career where people said, "Oh, you got a real job." Because before that, I was always just doing, animation for films or creative direction on projects. You jump around, you're a freelancer, right? You're a consultant. But this was the first time that I got labeled for having a real job. Again, change the narrative world. 2 seconds. Yeah. Sorry, my son just jumped in.
You're good.
It's quarter. He wanted lollies and he's getting them because I'm on.
That's amazing. That makes me happy. We need to keep that in. That makes me so happy because that's the world that we're in right now. There's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing. That's what a bedroom startup's all about, right?
I love it.
No, you can keep it in. That's all cool. I should feature him next time. No, yeah. but so the lows are, of course, there's moments there where you don't know if this is going to work. Like, you've bet on yourself and you worry that, in a few months' time, we're going to run out of money. And how do we keep people on board, and how do we keep building, right? So we were then fortunate enough to have these drops and retain some money. And then that, of course, the knock-on effect there was we were able to, raise some serious money that's bootstrapped us really well. But, again, we're moving into a very delicate time where big companies as well are, there's a lot of people out there where, this is not 2021 anymore, where the hype was at its highest. We've come down again now. We're in a bit of a bear market, but we like to call it a build market. And to the people out there who are betting on themselves, just stay true, but be smart, right? It's time to kind of prepare for winter, right? Ration or whatever. So yeah, and everybody's feeling it. All the big companies too. So
100%. In that lowest moment, is there a word that someone could have shared with you? Because I imagine there's a lot of founders who are listening right now who are feeling that like same kind of moment. Is there something you would have shared with yourself that would be helpful for them?
Yeah, don't be afraid to seek advice. Don't be afraid to be transparent. Don't stop backing yourself, but be self-critical, right? Like, really don't forget to be rational. I mean, that's really important. And some people do like just go, no, this is the way, and that's good on them. And you know what? And at the end of the day, it's okay to again use that word fail, because it is just learning experiences, right? Like if you fail, you learn, right? You just get back up and you can do it again. And I think I mentioned to you, like, not only do I believe that, I've got it tattooed on my arm. You can't see it here because it's blurry, but in here it says, you win some, you learn some, right? And make sure that, that the true quote was, of course, you lose. But I hate saying that. I mean, I don't believe anybody is a loser. I just think, we get the cards we get dealt, and like anything, you can be unlucky, and like anything, you can be lucky, and if the timing's not there, it will come. You just got to persevere. And that's, I guess, fall in love with the process, right? Because it's a grind, but it's anything worth doing is hard work, right? Like, so just gotta, stay with it, and reach out and get advice, and lean on people around you, and listen. Really listen. Awesome. I think that's the best advice I could give.
Man, that's so helpful. Well, thank you. I hope that's helpful for some people. Now on the other side, because the success that you had was incredible. And can you tell us maybe some, like, one of the most impactful early growth strategies or tactics before the hockey stick moment?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to go viral, right? Like we wanted to, and honestly, if there was a if there was a remedy for virality, it wouldn't have its name, right? Like that's the reason why it's called viral. There is no way of depicting how to do this. But what we did was we put a lot of runs on the board, and we put a lot of work out there. Having said that, we never really marketed. We haven't done any like paid marketing, so we were, pretty lucky with our the timing, I would say, because this was the peak of, NBA Top Shots just came out. Beeple had just sold his 5,000 Days of Summer or 500 Days of Summer, whatever, that big art piece he sold for a ridiculous amount. So the focus was on this new technology and this new tokenization of digital goods, right? Which is called non-fungible tokens, which is the word I will try not to say as much, especially in our outward-facing narrative. But again, that technology is amazing. Tokens are amazing, right? Not only just for art, but for music, but also for our own personal goods, and in the future, there'll be a lot more things that are going to be tokenized, right? It's about getting runs on the board and just trying. Like, I think the best advice I could say is don't overthink it, right? Like nothing is perfect, right? Nothing's permanent and nothing's finished. There's a rule which I love, and it's actually from Colin Powell. If you remember him, he created the 40-70 rule. If you've got 40% of an idea there and you believe in it 40%, and between 70%, go for it. Don't wait till over 70%, and don't go below 40%. Like if your belief system is between the 40 and 70, you should go for that idea and just test it out, because otherwise there's a thing called procrastination, and you're going to hold yourself back, and you're going to self-doubt. You're going to go, oh, is it going to work, and whatever. You got to throw these things out, and you got to test them, and then listen to the data, right? Like listen to the reaction, understand what impressions this, if it's a post, do the analytics, get somebody on your team who's good at analytics, and then can feed that back to your team, because that's really what's going to navigate you through the storm.
That's really good. And so you, was there a specific channel that you started with, or could you tell us more about like the actual testing approach you did to iterate? Or was it the first thing you tried and then it just blew up?
Oh no, we tried a couple of different things. I mean, the first thing we did really to test the market was create just horses without a game, right? So the originality was these just 2D plain vector graphic horses, just to put a tester out there. And once Rob and Chris, they saw this, they actually saw that people are buying these and selling them just out of speculation, right? Remember in 2018 and 2017, 2018 and 2019, all the way to 21, most of this hype was fed by speculation, right? Speculation is what's really hyped this up, really, right? Yeah. But there's also rationalization, like all these. I'll talk about all these like PFP projects, right? Everybody wants to be the next blue chip Bored Ape and CryptoPunk, and they did really well. They hit the timing right. They did something right. Again, if you talk to them, I don't know if they're going to put a finger on it. I think it was just also a lot of chance, right? Artwork was different. People bought into it. I mean, they obviously had some influences behind them, which is the news these days, but we won't talk about that. So for us, it was when we saw the data of these people, actually, there's an appetite through the data. Then we went, all right, let's build a game. And so we built a prototype of the game. That's where I kind of stepped in with my 3D background and knowledge. And once we had that prototype up, we had like a proof of concept, like a POC. Or MVP, minimum viable product, that we could then present to get our first kind of round of funding, and to just bootstrap us for that first year and a half. And yeah, man. And then from there, we were worried that we were going to run out of funds, and then the drop happened. And again, was that something we did? I like to say yes, of course it was something we did, but I also rationally can say, there was a hype train there. Yeah,
man, that's amazing. So it's first just like doing the lightest test ever, with just creating the horse and seeing, and this is such a great like metaphor as well. You literally just created the course, not the racetrack, and you just saw what happened. And there was enough interest where people were actually like trading on it that you're like, there's something here.
Exactly. Yeah. People bought into the speculation and the hope of this was going to become a game, right?
Yeah.
And if you bought the horses back then, man, like I remember when we were actually, even after then, when we started building the game, I was telling my mom, like, hey, mom, you should probably buy a few of these horses. I was telling my friends too, look, this is what I'm doing. Maybe buy a few. You never know, right? And back then they were like $10 a pop, right? Like $20 a pop. Those horses ended up selling for like crazy amounts. Again, supply and demand and speculation. There was a huge demand, right?
Wow.
And so we had horses sell for like, 15 grand. But then resell after they were raced and proved that they were actually really strong horses and could, and again, the whole point of the game and for the people who want to play it this way is that you can make a return, right? You can actually race and bring back value. And in that sense, there was a horse, I think, what was it? Breathless Edge. It sold for something like $280,000, right? But this horse is a dominant horse in this ecosystem full of like 200,000 horses and 50,000 stable owners, right? So it's in the long term, who knows? You probably make your and as the ecosystem grows, it's like betting on LeBron James or Michael Jordan, right?
That is so interesting, man. So help us between after you're starting to build the track metaphorically, you knew there was something there. What were some of the channels of distribution that you used in the early days that were really successful?
The same ones we use today. I mean, you have to have a Discord channel. You want to funnel in your community into one spot. And hate or love Discord, it's the one that they use. It's the gamer kind of centric Discord channel. Mind you, be really careful with Discord. There is a lot of, and again, over the years, I've seen so many hustles and so many fake accounts and people being scammed. So really do your due diligence. Don't just, again, people can pose as other people. But anyway, Discord is a great place for communities. You can even make membership private clubs and whatnot within that. And that's where you really want to keep your heart, because you want to bring people into that funnel. And this is where you relay all the key information. You heard it here first, is Discord, right? Then you go Twitter. Twitter is an absolute beast and is definitely the place where I spend, I try to spend at least half an hour or an hour a day on Twitter, just reading through what my feed, and I'm following a lot of the people who play our game, a lot of our community. I just want to see what the sentiment is like. Again, back to data. I want to hear what the people on the front line are saying. I want to understand what pain points there are. Where are we today? You learn a lot by listening to your community, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the beauty, I think, about building in Web3 is you're building alongside them, right? Like, because our game is still in beta today, and we're making leaps and bounds and improvements all the time, but we're going to stay in beta until we're happy with the final product, right? And to give you as a reference point, and we're not Google, but Google was in beta for 7 years until they were so I'm using that 7-year mark as kind of like, hey, we're allowed to do this as we figure out the balance, right? And then you're doing it next to your community. And I think what's so beautiful and important, if you are building and if you are founding and building a project, is to involve the community somehow. Listen to them, let them have not let them have the final say, but again, back to my point that you need to understand and collect the data. If 90% of them are saying the same thing, there's probably something about that thing that you should look at, right? And also what we do is we give them access to our API, so they actually can get the data from our game and our ecosystem and build these complex front-end homepages, which actually assist people in playing the game. So we've got things like Hawku, Know Your Horses, Dan Shan, who's a famous community member, controversial dude, shout out to him. He's built something called the Blood Tool, which really goes in and gives you a competitive edge if you decide to use it, right? And so being able to enable other coders and builders to attach their additional layers of front end systems onto our ecosystem, that only grows it, right? And the best, I mean, it's a creator economy, right? And the best in the gaming sense for people out there who I need to, if I bring it down to like a layman term, is Fortnite, and then there's Roblox, right? And what happened with Fortnite was they noticed that these kids were not kids, also adults were playing the game, right, which was the battle royale, but then they were hanging around in the lobby, just talking and hanging out, right? And so they figured, like, all right, let's give them some tools to not just hang out, but build. And Fortnite Creative happened. And what happened is the exponential growth then of you're now empowering creativity, right? And you're fostering inclusivity. And with blockchain, you can now drive prosperity, right? So those kind of are three pillars of what you call a meaningful metaverse. And if you can engage your community to become a builder with you and for you, alongside you, you know, it's just you're gonna see exponential growth. So again, I'm just kind of alluding to stuff that we're thinking about at Virtually Human, but also at ZED RUN. Like, imagine running or hosting your own tournament on your own track that you designed with your own horse skins and your own prize pools and maybe your own sponsorships, right? Like
that's amazing, man. We're right at time here. The last question is just, what's your superpower as a founder?
Passion. Passion.
I didn't give you any prep on that one, so that was instant. I love it.
No, yeah, I think if people ask you who I am, I think they say he's passionate, but also caring. You know, like, I think that passion is an emotional thing, and I think I'm a creative dude, so I wear not only do I wear sleeves, but I wear my heart on my sleeves, you know. So if you see me upset, I'll be upset. If you see me happy, I'll breathe happiness. As a leader, you have to learn to control that. So that's kind of what I'm working on, and I always will be. That'll be a lifelong project for me. I mean, always be learning, right? You gotta keep growing. Nobody's perfect. but yeah, I think passion and belief in this space is number one. And then, you know, I like to have fun, and I like to make people smile, and I think it's important that we have fun when we build as well. And I think, again, that kind of comes back into the creativity and the passion and the emotional context of self, right?
Tell me more about that, the daily searching that you do on Twitter to understand your audience and scanning of Discord. Like, what are you looking for? Is there an example of something that you've actually changed as a result of that? Like, how are you categorizing that?
Yeah, good, really good question. And there's, I think it's just being open to feedback, which is probably very hard, and not taking things personal. So being able to read, I mean, I've had a lot of death threats in some ways, and a lot of things said about me in DMs and stuff like that, which, you know what, it comes with the territory. And it's about also just understanding, compartmentalizing, and going, you know what, I don't blame you for being upset. The extremities of your reaction are maybe not my kind of style, but I understand where you're coming from. And I'll always try to meet people who a lot of players DM me. If they just are ranting and calling me names, of course I'm not going to answer, you know, there's no point. But if they're actually wanting a conversation, I'm happy to sit down and spend 5 minutes to write to have a conversation with them, to get to understand what it is that they're annoyed about, and maybe furthermore elaborate them on what it is the experience is like behind the scenes, right? Because I think nothing is ever what it seems, right? Like, perception, you can say that, you know, perception is reality. What people are privy to on a surface level, there's reasons why we make certain decisions, and of course we're not privy to share those for obviously business reasons, but there's always reasons behind certain decisions, right? But what I'm looking for, to answer your question, is repetitive. If the same kind of sentiment is coming up, right? If someone is really happy about something, I'm also looking at the positives. If I see that repeat happiness, that's a good thing. Then I take that back, and I can show it to the team and go, look, this is great, you know. But if I see repeat unhappiness, and it's sharing the same sentiment about something, whether it's something we've just released or something they're upset about, then it's worth bringing back to the team as well and going, you know, is this something we should react on? Do we have a response for this? Do we need to do anything about this, right? And then we have an internal discussion. And it's not as easy as just responding and going, blah, 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 because you might open up a can of worms. You gotta be mindful that you are business. And, you know, we as a business now have investors, right? And we're protecting their interest as well as our own. And, you know, so as kind of honest and open and like, no, this is because this and this and this, you want to go, you can't give away trade secrets on Twitter, right? Like that's not what we're about. But I think there's a middle ground where you can meet people and give them that kind of clue that, hey, this is done for a reason, and you might not make sense to you now, but just wait, like it is a longer game. So and again, everything we do, and it would be silly not to, everything we're building and doing is in the best intention to retain and grow this ecosystem. And that's not just for our own good, which of course it is, right? we're being founders and creators of the space, but it's important that we foster a healthy ecosystem so it benefits everybody involved, right? And that's really the key to any healthy community, right? Is that everybody has equal gains, right? And then so that's really important.
Chris, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time and just sharing the inspirational story. I know it's going to help a lot of founders.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I hope we're recording too.
Oh yeah. We didn't make that mistake twice, because I think that's another issue. If we can make mistakes, but let's try not to make them twice. The same ones. Look,
and sometimes you do, man, and it's okay, right? Like just go with it. All right. Hey,
dude, Chris.
Yeah, appreciate you. And if there's a shout out I can do, it's go check out ZED.RUN. Let us know what you think.
100%. What's the exact URL if you want to share it, and we can
ZED.RUN. So
awesome.
Z Zorro Echo Diamond dot Roger Umbrella Nigeria.
Boom.
There you go.
If you can't get that, then that's
ZED.RUN, baby. All right.
ZED.RUN, man. Chris, thank you so much. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and Google. If you want to learn more about Zendesk for Startups and our free offer, please check out our website at zendesk.com/startups.